Hey everybody, how's it going? Stoudman coming back at you once more. And today I want to talk to you about one of my, well, I don't know if I would say it's one of my favorite horror movies. I would just say that I really like the Jeepers Creepers franchise. And I really wish they would make some more because there were a lot of aspects about the movie that were just fantastic, of the first one in particular.
For instance, I really like this opening scene, which is a clear reference to the early Steven Spielberg movie Duel, which functions well as a quick scare to get the audience in the right frame of mind. I also like some of the cinematography in the movie, because although it isn't necessarily consistent throughout, it does shine here and there. In this shot, the framing literally has our two main characters in a small circle surrounded by blackness, which might seem somewhat simple, but it just isn't something you see very much of nowadays. And what about the creature itself? The Creeper is an amalgamation of every movie monster you've ever seen, and he's kept in the dark throughout most of the film to keep the creep factor high. Although inspiration was definitely pulled from horror movies spanning the era of The Creature from the Black Lagoon to A Nightmare on Elm Street, this baddie actually has a fairly original story, even if it is a little bit silly. And honestly, I have to believe that the Creeper was intended to be somewhat of a silly character, because there are some scenes in each film that would almost be comical if they weren't also terrifying at the same time. Note, for instance, the sign behind the Creeper here, which says, "Tastes so darn good," just as he's about to bite into a freshly cut off head. Or how about the scene in Jeepers Creepers 2, where he's literally hopping along like a friggin' frog? So with the humor in mind, the often interesting cinematography, the excellent creature design, and the references to other classic horror and suspense movies, I have to say that all in all, Jeepers Creepers is a pretty good film.
So, of course, imagine my surprise when Jeepers Creepers 2 comes out, and I immediately run out and grab that on, I think I rented it on VHS or something like that when that came out. I might have actually seen it in the theater, I don't really remember. But what I do know about this is that the trailers showed a lot of like cool scenes from early on in the movie, and you're like, oh my god, it's got this cool thing with him chasing after the farmer's sons, and the farmer's gonna go after him and all that. And then you watch the movie and it's like 95% crap about just watch.
When you actually get around to watching the movie, you discover that over an hour of it focuses on the high school drama of some teens on a bus who are being hounded by the Creeper. The story you actually want to see about the farmer going after the Creeper and getting his revenge makes up roughly 15 to 20 minutes of the film, and literally could have been a short film leading up to the release of a full film. If you're a fan of the first film, the second one will come across as something that reeks of studio interference and makes you want to, well...
So yeah, you could literally cut out like most of this movie and leave maybe 15-20 minutes of it of the actual, farmer stuff, and it would be a legitimately cool sequel, or at least a legitimately cool little addendum to the original Jeepers Creepers movie. Everything else in that, like, well, not everything, but most of the other stuff in the movie is just stupid. It's like it's there for dressing, except for it's the majority of the movie. So the majority of the movie is dressing. Ugh. Needless to say, I didn't pay a lot for this, and I do not intend to pay a lot for the Blu-ray of this. If I see the double pack of these going for like $5 to $10, maybe. But other than that, I mean, I'm only really interested in picking up the Blu-ray of this one. And even then, not much, because from what I understand, the Blu-ray for Jeepers Creepers, the quality on that one is not very fantastic. So, yeah. For now, at least, I'm sticking with my DVDs. That being said, there are a lot of reasons to enjoy the Jeepers Creepers franchise overall, but there are some things that shouldn't even come into your mind, that shouldn't even be a concern to you, when you're watching these movies, but for whatever reason, I've seen or heard a lot of people bring these issues up whenever I start talking about Jeepers Creepers. In particular, I always seem to hear somebody bring up Victor Salva, the director, and talking about how he had some certain legal issues and that he's not necessarily a great person. And all I can think when I hear that is like, well, you know, Michael Jackson had a lot of legal issues too, but pretty sure most people nowadays, now that he's dead, they don't really focus on that or even care about that anymore. And then what about all the issues with Woody Allen? I mean, Woody Allen has had a few claims made against him, but, you know, nobody, or very few people, I would say, raise a stink about watching a Woody Allen movie because he's a great director and he's a great filmmaker and he's just great at what he does when it comes to movies. And the creepy thing is that you can see a lot of the issues that he's purported to have in the work that he does. So, yeah. I guess what I would say is, why is it okay to bring up the personal lives of directors and filmmakers and actors and whatnot who are involved with a movie as if that should be the deciding factor of whether or not you watch or enjoy that movie for someone like Victor Salva, when it's not okay or not necessarily something done with other directors or other filmmakers or other actors. What makes those other filmmakers and actors better than Victor Salva, other than just technically being much better, you know? But, you know, what about that? You know, where's the justification, I guess is what I would ask. And I really don't think there is any justification there. I think that people raising a stink about that need to just shut up, because granted, this guy might have a few issues. He might have a few screws loose in his head. But you know what? So do a lot of other directors. In essence, the intent of the author does not matter. It can help us to understand a film better, or maybe even or in the case of books, it can help us understand books a lot better. But even though that can help us to understand maybe what a book is about, or what something in a book is about, or what a certain scene in a movie is about, even though it can add those little nuggets to of understanding to what we know about the film or what we know about a book, it isn't necessarily the only possible interpretation that anyone could have of that. And it isn't necessarily the only possible message that one could take from that. And honestly, it isn't important. What it all boils down to is that it's not important. It can be useful, but it is not important. Therefore, when you start saying, well, the director did this, or the director did that, or blah, 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 I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't even fucking know why you care. Because authorial intent, man, it doesn't matter what the author intended. It doesn't matter who the author is. It does not matter. What matters is what you see on the screen or read in the pages. That's what matters. So to say that you're not going to watch this film, or that you're not going to enjoy this film, or to try to enjoy this film simply because it's been directed by this guy that you don't like, it's kind of stupid. I mean, it's ignorant of how things work and how reading and watching films works. I mean, who the author is, who the director is, who anybody in the movie is, should not be a factor to consider when trying to decide whether or not to watch a movie. That shouldn't even come into play. It shouldn't even be a concern. When it is a concern, you're being overly dramatic about this stuff, and you need to just take a step back and realize, okay, This film has nothing to do with what the director did or didn't do in his own personal time. You know, granted, it might have been a shitty thing that they did, but that's, first of all, none of your business, and second of all, it has nothing to do with the freaking movie. So, yeah. Don't let stupid stuff like that get in the way of your enjoyment of a movie like this. That's all I would say. If you haven't given Jeepers Creepers a chance simply because you don't like Victor Salva for whatever reason, I highly suggest that you actually get around to watching the movie, maybe watching the second one as well, and give it a chance. If you have watched it and you didn't like it the first time, I say give it a second chance, because like I said, there are a lot of reasons to enjoy this movie, and this franchise in fact. And they've talked about doing a third one, but they never really got around to it, from what I understand at least. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes in the next few years. For now, it's just Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Peace.